section, we're going to talk about frequency distribution. Frequency means how many times something occurs, or how often it occurs. Distribution tells where they're at, how it's laid out. Here I have some sample ages, and I've put them in order for ease. They're not always going to come in order. Sometimes you may have to put them in order yourself. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to make a frequency table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the age, and here I'm going to have the frequency of that age. In other words, how many times does it occur? When I have such a table, I don't want to skip anything. So I would start 16. I have one 16-year-old, no 17-year-olds, 3 18-year-olds, 3 19-year-olds, 2 20-year-olds, 1 21-year-old, no 22s, no 23s, no 24s, 25, 26. You can see how this would become quickly very tedious. And I've got to go all the way down to 56. In this case, there are so many of those, it would be better to group these into what we call classes. A class is a range. So let's choose range. Let's suppose we're going to have 16. We'll put all the 16 to 27-year-olds together in one class. Then all the 28 to 38-year-olds. We would have to do what? Messed up here. Let's see. All the 16 to 27-year-olds. Then I'd have to do the 28 to 39-year-olds because my class widths need to be the same. The class width would mean how many ages are in each group. So I need there to be the same number in each of these groups. So if I start with 16 and I add 11, I get 27. I can't start with 27 here because the 27-year-old can only be in one group. So 28, and I'll add 11, and 40, and I'll add 11, 52, and I'll add 11, and over here we'll put the frequency of that class. Frequency, first of all, how many people are there that are 16 to 27? All of these are in the first class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many are in the next class? These 3 are in the next class. How many in the next class? Those 3. And how many in the last class? Only 1. So I have made a frequency table, and I have made a frequency class distribution table out of the data. Now, what if we were given, instead of the raw data, we would call this the raw data, the actual values, I was given the distribution instead, and I want to find out several things regarding that. So let's look at another example. And suppose I was given this data here. So I'm I've been given 6 classes and the frequency of each class. And we want to find some things out about this. The total number of, in this case we're talking about ages, so I'll call them people, but they could be something other than people. So how would I find the total number of people? Well, if I'm saying there are 2 people in this age range and 8 in this, then each one of these represents a person. So I just need to add those numbers together. 2 plus 8 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3, which is 26 people altogether. So just add those numbers together. The width of the class, and in this case I have to be careful. Think about how many ages are included in 8 to 16. If you were in class and I gave you homework problems 8 to 16, how many homework problems did I give you? You might be tempted to just say 16 minus 8, but that's how many gaps there are between the problems. I want to actually know how many problems there are. So you're going to do the largest number minus the smallest, and then add 1 to count the smallest. So the class width here is actually 9. And if you don't believe me, let's write them down. Actually, you're going to see this whether you believe me or not. If I write down all the ages, 8 to 16, how many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 of them. So you take the largest number minus the smallest and add 1 to get the class width. Okay, what about the midpoint of a class? We'll say the first class. Midpoint would be the one in the middle. Since the class width is 9, right, there's an odd number of them. So half of 9 would be 4.5. There is really no 4.5 number. So I can count the 5th one from either end. The 5th one from the left or the 5th one from the right. So the midpoint is going to be 12. Now if there were an even number of them, I would have to take halfway in between those two. So if I were instead going 8 to 15, I would have to pick in between 11 and 12 and say 11.5. Okay. The modal class. The modal class are the ones with similar frequencies. So in this case, that's going to be, which one? 17 to 25. Sometimes there can be more than one of those. There could have been another group that also had 8. The class limits of the next class, if there were to be a next class. Well, notice I was adding 8 each time because that's the jumps. Now there's 9 in each class. I could look at each of these numbers and add 8, I can't have the same number in a class. So the next one would have to begin with 62, and I would have to add 8 to it, so that it would also have 9 members. So there are actually 9 members in the class that is 62 to 70. That's basically what frequencies are. In the next section, we're going to look at different types of graphs and histograms.